I have not seen this, and I've been desperately waiting to see this bit of rehab. I knew it was coming, and we had to talk about it, and I'm just, ugh. Here we go.
Now, Senator Ted Cruz tonight is facing
this guy's face. All right.
the ire of the mob, the media for traveling to...
Oh, it's the ire of the mob, the media. And by the way, hold on one second. God damn, that's louder than it needs be. Check. There we go. Sorry about that. Oh, that's loud. I don't know why the browser sound is like slapdash. I guess whatever they load up to. But
traveling to Cancun, Mexico.
Yeah, the ire of the mob because he traveled. And by mob, we mean Texas citizens.
With his daughters to drop them off and come home.
Bullshit. That was a lie. We now know that was a lie. He admitted that was a lie.
As Texas is still addressing the fallout and damage from severe weather. Now, in response, Senator Cruz tonight did say, in retrospect, he might have made a mistake, adding in a statement, in part, wanting to be a good dad. I flew down with them last night, and I'm flying right back this afternoon. And he...
No. Sorry, sir. You added the right back. And I'm flying back this afternoon. There was no right in there. You threw the right in there, which is, I guess, your job.
Wanting to be a good dad, I flew down with them last night, and I'm flying right back this afternoon.
Right back.
And he did. My staff and I are in constant communication with state, local leaders to get to the bottom of what happened in Texas.
We know what happened.
Joining us now to talk about it is Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
This is a dude who couldn't wait for this interview. There is no fear in this man's face. It's nice to be in a safe space.
I have a piece of this story that nobody knows that you know to be true, and Governor Abbott
Yipes.
knows to be true. And that is, I got contact very early in the week from the official meteorologist of my radio show, Joe Bastardi, frequent guest on this program at...
Great story so far. It's real insider stuff.
Weatherbell.com. And he sent a note to both of you, to you and Governor Abbott. In that note, he said this is going to be far worse than I think others are predicting. You got in touch with him. The governor got in touch with him. You took it seriously, and you
left for Cancun. What? Literally, this is not helping, Sean. Sean, this is not helping. Literally, like... a lot of people at home don't know this, but I'm glad to share this with you. My personal meteorologist, and who doesn't have their own personal meteorologist, called you and Abbott and said, this is going to be hell. And so instead of getting on the air and saying to the people of Texas, oh my God, this is going to be bad, you fucked off to Cancun. This is literally worse. How does this help? And I think even Ted knows this isn't helping.
You worked hand in hand with the governor in the lead up to this, knowing this was all...
In the lead up to flying to Cancun?
All a big possibility. And this is days before that happened, and you were fully and completely engaged, and I know that...
With what? A friend of Sean Hannity's?
From my own reporting and my own conversations with you and Governor Abbott and with Joe Bastardi. Now...
Yeah, great. Yeah. Get Joe on.
You went and you took your daughters to Cancun and you came back. I think you can be a father and be the senator of Texas all at the same time and make a round trip, quick drop-off trip and come home.
Yeah, he didn't. That's a lie. He already told someone else. Sean, he didn't catch you up.
Well, Sean, that's right. And starting with what you opened with, you connected me with Joe early on before these storms actually even hit the state.
And I was like, we need to go to Cancun while this stuff is going down. This is going to suck.
Texas. And I got to say, you called me and told me Joe was very...
You're honest to God. What the hell are we watching? This asshole literally is saying, I called you and told you it was going to be terrible. So what did you do? You bugged out. You took your family to Mexico as a Republican to avoid a storm in a state you helped run.
It was very impressive. He knew his stuff. And I called him that evening and spent significant time on the phone with him talking through what he saw coming, and he was predicting not one but two major winter storms, the combination of which he believed would have an impact on Texas that would exceed anything we've seen in this state since 1899. And I thought,
And I was like, what a great time to cash in my business class mileage upgrade.
it was a very impressive, a very serious. He sent me charts and data on what was coming. And you reached out, and I reached out to Governor Abbott and said, listen, this guy knows his stuff, and you ought to talk to him, and we helped connect them.
Dude, the National Weather Service is in contact with Abbott. He didn't need Sean Hannity's meteorologist from his radio station to tell him this is going to be a bad storm. Are you a moron? You don't think the state of Texas has access to the same data that dickhead has? Seriously, again, it's now getting worse. This is now actually worse because now Sean Hannity and he are making the case that if it wasn't for some local radio dude calling us, we would be in the dark about the weather.
And, you know, at the same time, Governor Abbott had already declared an emergency in all.
Yeah, because he's in contact with the National Weather Service and the federal government. Jesus Christ.
254 counties all across Texas. And so I joined with John Cornyn in urging Joe Biden to declare a federal disaster to mirror the governor's request, which President Biden, to his credit, did. And so that was...
Yeah, he was already ahead of you. He was already talking to Abbott to get it done. You didn't even need to make that phone call.
Early on, right before these storms came, we knew they were serious. This week has been hell for the state of Texas. It has been...
Well, not quite hell. Because if it was actually hell, you'd have been there. I guess I think it truly became hell when they thought they had a momentary reprieve from your existence and you came back.
There's been two storms on top of each other. 4 million Texans lost power. No power, no lights, many with no water.
Yeah, you're not telling us shit we don't know.
It has been frustrating. I'll tell you, Sean, a lot of Texans are mad or pissed off. How can it be that Texas, the energy capital of the world, can't turn our lights on and can't heat our homes? A lot of Texans are frustrated. This shouldn't have happened.
And, you know, it's not like I had an opportunity to govern up till now. I mean, I just became a senator right before I left for Cancun. What?
I'll tell you, Heidi and me, we lost power for 2 days. Our house was dark. We had no heat. Actually, the fireplace behind me, we were all huddled around the fireplace because it was the only heat in the house. And after a couple of days, after the girls being really cold, it being in the teens,
we thought maybe we should send them to a neighboring state with friends, like, you know, take them to Florida and drop them off at Marco Rubio's house and going, you know, a lot of people are doing this. They're staying with friends in warmer states. And we sent, you know, I, the senator of Texas, sent my wife and children out of state, and not everybody has that chance, but I'm staying here to help. See how easy that shit is? See how easy the optics are in this situation?
the teens and the 20s outside. Our girls said, look, school's been canceled for the week.
Can we just go to Cancun? And who doesn't shrug and go, fuck it, sure.
We take a trip and go somewhere warm. And Heidi and I, as parents, we said, okay, sure. And so,
okay, sure. No, you go, honey, I'm a senator. I represent the state. What I'm going to do is send you and your mom to go stay with some relatives. You guys are going to go to Florida. There's still beaches there, but you're not going to a foreign country that my favorite, you know, the guy daddy used to carry his testicles everywhere after he called mommy ugly. Remember that guy? Yeah, you're going to go stay in his state.
And so last night I flew down with them to the beach, and then I flew back this afternoon. I had initially planned to stay through the weekend and to work.
Okay, there you go. So Sean Hannity is a liar. And I don't know that it's his fault. Like, I think he was ready to help him rehab with this lie and didn't realize that he'd already been busted for it, because why the shit would Sean Hannity check the details before he starts lying on behalf of a U.S. senator?
To work remotely there, but as I was heading down there, I started to have second thoughts almost immediately.
Yeah, every time I go to Cabo, I have the same feeling. Whenever I'm going to Cancun, I get on the plane and go, God, is this really a good idea?
Because the crisis here in Texas, you need to be here on the ground, and as much as you can do by phone and
This is your voice in your head? Asshole, this was Twitter the next day. You bought your flight at 6 after you looked at Twitter and went, oh shit.
Zoom, it's not the same as being here. And so I returned this afternoon, and I'm here working to make sure to do everything we can to get the power turned on, but also fundamentally to ask the questions, why did this happen?
Because Texas, for all their value and I love me some Texans. I got some friends that live in Texas. They have a tendency on the national and government and governor level to elect some assholes.
And why was the Texas grid, which is regulated at the state level, it's operated at the state level, it's not a federal function, it's a
right, yeah. Notice the federal grid was still working.
State function, but why was the grid not sufficiently prepared so that 4 million Texans lost heat and power?
I'll tell you why. Because Texas likes to pretend it's not part of the United States. That part of your ego as a Texan is fuck the United States of America. That's your problem. It's not about regulation. It's about the federal government and the scientists that work with the federal government and the infrastructure of the United States as somehow the bad guy because of some nonsense about slavery a long time ago or this asshole idea that you guys are part of the frontier. It's ego. That's why it failed. Jesus Christ.
We need to answer that, and we need to make sure it never happens again in the state of
I just did, and it absolutely will.
Texas.
To what extent? Now, Texas is very unique in that.
Wait a minute. Sean, we don't get to talk about how unique Texas is. By the way, you know how you catch a unique rabbit? You sneak up on him. Sean, at this point, that was just mean. You're supposed to go, wait a second, I just lied on your behalf. What, you expect me to just sit here with egg on my face?
In that there's no federal control authority over their energy grid. It's separate and apart, which for a lot of different reasons is very good for Texas.
Why? What's good about it? Is energy cheaper in Texas? No. As a matter of fact, because there's no regulation, there's no market caps on it, people are getting $200,000 electric bills.
As you do not have to abide by the burdensome regulations of the federal.
Yeah, the burdensome regulations of if you're going to charge people for energy, the lights should stay on.
Government, very smart on Texas's part, and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant. That's why I don't live there. That's why I do my show out of New York City. I'm in this liberal megapolis that's run like a functioning city.
I don't know. I'm not really sure. I thought we learned during COVID that teleschool, telemedicine, teleworking, Zoom calls, all this other stuff changed the way we do everything. Now, I'm not assuming that the people of Texas, with all the natural resources.
What the fuck? What was that? What happened there?
With all the natural resources.
Who are those people?
Now, I'm not assuming that the people of Texas, with all the natural.
Oh my God, we've all. Do you feel like an old couple right now? Have we all been? I feel like has Brad Pitt in Fight Club been nice big grandma?
The natural resources of Texas. Why is Texas relying on wind turbines, which, by the way, it's use it or lose it. You can't store that energy.
Yes, you can. You have battery systems.
And why, in that sense,
and why geflagen?
Isn't it upgraded to what works now? Now, eventually, if it works and
Hey, why isn't it upgraded to what works now? Good question, Sean Hannity. Good question. That's actually, let's dig a little deeper in there. I'll tell you why. Because Texas is run by the oil and gas industry, and they want renewables to look like shit. So they put some up, they keep the tech old, they don't maintain it, they leave it idle for long periods of time, the maintenance on it is slapdash, so that when it fucks up, they go, see this crap? See this crap? This stuff doesn't work.
And Texas chooses that, I'm an all the above guy. But for now, oil, gas, and coal are our main sources of energy, and nuclear energy.
The gauges at the gas plants froze. The pipelines and the facilities froze. They did not have them warmed up and ready to go to deal with the extra energy needs because people were staying inside, it was freezing, and they had to turn on their electric heat, and they need more liquid natural gas for, gas-powered stoves and furnaces and the like. They didn't go turn on the extra power plants, the extra stations. And then when this storm hit, they froze. Those spaces froze because they didn't bother to turn them on.
If people would let us use it.
If people would let you use what? Seriously, is there some belief system that because, I'm willing to blame Ted Cruz that he went to Cabo and he had the keys to the natural gas plants that they turn on when they have extra need? Did he packed them in his bag like a rental car?
Well, I think you said it right, which is that we should use all of the above. In Texas is the #1 producer of wind energy in the country, more than California. About 25% of our electricity comes from wind, and that's a...
No, it doesn't. Just over 10%. That's a lie.
Valuable asset. My view is we ought to be using all the energy sources.
And by the way, just over 10% of renewables together, according to the governor. But, trust the dude who fucked off to Cancun.
But we shouldn't have mandates. We shouldn't be subsidizing any. We should let the market decide and the consumers decide.
You ever watch a 50s horror film, anybody? Anybody watching this? Have you seen the Thriller video? You have, haven't you? How does the story start? They go to the movies, they have a nice night out, they get in the car, and when they're driving, what does it do? It runs out of gas. Tons of horror films in the 50s especially, started with a car running out of gas. And the only place to go is the scary house on the hill because there's no cell phones, there's no phones, period. If a big house on the hill might have a telephone that they could really reach somebody. You know why? Because there was no oil and gas infrastructure. The government subsidized it to make it all the way across the country. Literally, it was part of our infrastructure plan. It was part of the creation of the freeways themselves. We made it so that it was cost effective. We covered the cost of a lot of oil and gas development through both tax breaks and direct funding. Because burning oil for giant factories was one thing, but once we were turning it into fuel for cars, that required a next step. And cars themselves ended up being subsidized at a certain point to expand them into the market. And they were a boon. It was a smart move. Oil and gas was helped by government intervention. And now what they want to do is basically like the oil and gas industry got to climb up the ladder, and they don't want to, and they view reaching down for the next level of energy is somehow socialism.
Right now, we don't have clear answers as to why the Texas energy grid couldn't handle this surge in the winter. Obviously, a massive surge like this is very unusual in Texas. It appears there were a combination of factors. One factor
was that they elected people like Ted Cruz.
Is a substantial number of the wind turbines froze.
No. When less than 10% of your energy usage comes from wind turbines, and it does, a little over 10% comes from renewables entirely.
And ceased producing energy. Now, elsewhere, other colder climates, you're able to put treatments and lubricants on wind turbines so they can.
So that they work year round. So like Minnesota, Indiana, like none of the wind turbines in Indiana shut down. Minnesota has them.
Operate in the cold, but in Texas that wasn't predicted to happen, and so they didn't do.
Yeah, they don't bother. Why should you even try? And it's not like you want it to. It's because they want it to fail.
That we saw a huge drop off in energy from wind. We also saw substantial drop offs from coal, substantial drop offs from natural gas, substantial drop offs from solar. What we need to do is have a serious fact-based investigation, not based on politics, not based on the Green New Deal.
Yeah, now we don't. Now this shouldn't be about politics, guys.
And where you are on this policy.
I'm just a politician who got into a political disaster of my own making, so we shouldn't talk about politics.
See the other. It needs to be based on the evidence, based on the facts, to say what happened. Why was the grid not there? Most of these shutdowns were mandated because there wasn't the power, and so they just shut whole neighborhoods down. You know,
because the whole thing was going to fail because it's so poorly maintained.
We had Tuesday night, we had a bunch of kids at our house because our house was one of the few houses that had power, and so we had a lot of our.
Wait a minute. Your house had power on Tuesday night?
Daughter's friends were over. We were making dinner for them. Boom, the lights go out and we lose power. And so we had a candlelight dinner because that's all we had. We had flashlights, and then the girls all camped out. They got in sleeping bags and wrapped up in comforters and everything.
And you just sat in an easy chair watching this?
But it got cold. I mean, it was in the 30s in the house as it got cold. And it stayed with no power for 2 days. That was because the power generation in the grid couldn't meet the demands.
Yeah, well, it's almost as if your state is run like shit.
And so they took whole streets and whole neighborhoods offline. That should not happen again. It certainly shouldn't happen in Texas. You know, other states, you look at a state like California, where they have rolling brownouts predictably year after year after year. It's a failure of the system, and it's a failure the government regulators are causing. Part of the reasons Texans are so pissed.
Yeah, so because California manages overages when they have extreme circumstances so that the grid itself doesn't fail, and never mind the fact that, you know, Republicans, you have to have such a majority in the Senate in California to, you know, raise budgetary guidelines so that they can improve the infrastructure of California. Never mind that. And never mind the fact that Trump was attacking the state the entire time he was there. Wasn't it? He's like, hey, guys, I know you're the 7th largest economy on Earth. Are you sure your electrical grid can handle it? Is there anything we can do as the federal government, since you're giving more tax dollars to the federal government than, say, Kentucky is, and yet we're helping them out?
Are so pissed is this shouldn't happen in Texas. And
yeah, well, they manage it, and they have rolling brownouts so that they don't have blackouts, so that everything doesn't fail when there's an extraordinary circumstance. That way they don't have to invest in an entire infrastructure that's only used part of the time that falls apart the rest of the time. So you're managing your cost, you're managing your usage. Instead of, let's just burn it till it fails. Like literally, this is like in California, they use the clutch before they shift in a manual translation. Like, what kind of, just jam it. I mean, the car will go. It'll eventually get in gear.
And I'll tell you this, we're going to fix it. The state of Texas better fix it. Governor Abbott was right.
When?
When he called on the state legislature to investigate why the grid wasn't.
Yeah, we need a commission. That's a great idea. Republicans always, they're always big fans of when you want to investigate things and have a commission to find out what went wrong on a bureaucratic level. That's amazing. Hold on.
It wasn't ready, and to make sure this never happens again in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I didn't see much criticism there early lid that Joe Biden put on things, while the people in Texas, you could use federal help. But there's always that double standard.
An early what? An early lid on what?
Texas.
Yeah, I didn't see much criticism there early lid that Joe Biden put on things, while the people in Texas, you could use.
What are you laughing about, dickhead? Honest to God. The dude went to Cancun, was going to stay there all weekend. Sean just lied him back into, I guess, the Fox News graces.
Federal help. But there's always that double standard.
What double standard? Biden was ready with his pen in hand when Abbott asked. The state has to ask the federal government for an emergency declaration. He gave it to them right away. They were ready to go. They had it drafted already. They knew it would be hit.
You made the right call coming back. You also can be a father. There's also something called technology.
Yeah, why did you come back, you wuss? That's really, that's where you're going to paint, that's the corner you're going to paint him into, Sean?
Also know what teleworking is, and I think there's a lot of sanctimony.
Yeah, I could be doing this show from Cabo. Who knows?
In politics being played in this
This is where we find out that Sean Hannity does his show from Cancun every day.
attack, and
That he's been doing this show from Mexico for years.
look,
What difference does it make? Seriously, Sean, why don't you? I mean, since it doesn't matter, why don't you just do your show from Mexico? It's completely in line with your values.
look.
Good God.
Governor Perry made me an honorary Texan. That's why I made the call to you and Governor Abbott. I feel a responsibility.
What? Okay, so Oklahoma can go fuck itself. Is that what we're saying? Because he wasn't made an honorary Oklahoman? What is that? I was made, Rick Perry made me an honorary Texan. I'm sorry, we're making rich New Yorkers honorary Texans now?
Responsibility for.
Oh, I think he did that for all of Michael Cohen's clients.
Americans that actually don't hate me, like the state I'm living in, New York.
Move there. Oh, I'm sorry you can't, because if you were there, you wouldn't be able to regularly get your show on the air. Unlike New York.
Anyway, welcome home, Senator, and all the.
Welcome home. Get the. God damn.